everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new around here, my name is Alessia and I make videos every Monday on writing and publishing advice. So today's video is super special because I have my boyfriend Quentin on, who is also a recently published debut author of his book of scripts called Welcome to Pringlewood. And I thought it would be really interesting to bring Quentin onto my channel and talk more about script writing and how his book came to be, because a lot of you out there, I'm sure, aren't just interested in writing prose fiction and are probably pretty interested in maybe writing scripts one day or even TV scripts and stuff like that. So if you're interested, then please keep watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and to follow me on Instagram so you never miss a video.
It's interesting to talk about, for you to interview me about writing.
I know, it's a nice change of pace.
That's right,
So look at us, now we're both published authors.
Look at that.
Okay, so question one, what inspired you to write Welcome to Pringlewood?
It has a long history. I'd say like what inspired me to publish all the plays together was definitely seeing you self-publishing, like all the things that I learned about from Alessia, all the advice that she gave me. And self-publishing was something that had never really entered my mind until, honestly, probably until I met you.
Oh.
And but I'd always known that there was a platform on Amazon where you could self-publish books, and that's something that I had come across when I was younger. So this collection of scripts I've written between 2014 and 2019. So a lot of the plays in here were ones that were performed over the years. I used to do a lot of playwriting at a community theater called South Simcoe Theater, and they're the ones that would organize this 4-play reading festival. So they would get these submissions of plays, they would choose 4 of them, and then they would be read over the course of a weekend, so from Thursday to Sunday. And for 3 years, not in a row, but 3 different years, I got 3 of my plays put on. And it was kind of cool because it wasn't just the fact that my plays were getting produced. I would actually get a check of $50 as kind of like an honorarium. So I felt really accomplished. And the first script that I ever wrote is actually not in this book because I'm really not the biggest fan of it. I got that put on at South Simcoe Theater, and then that was the play that really inspired me to write all these other plays. I think that one was called They Came From the Silver Screen. It was kind of a rip-off of Hitchcock films. It's not something I'm too happy with in retrospect to the other stuff that I wrote. So I always wanted to compile all my plays together in one collection, and I more so published this book for the sake of myself and friends and family. I'm starting to think about marketing the book, especially marketing it as a Canadian collection of plays, because to my knowledge, I can't really think of a whole lot of Canadian playwrights that have collections like this out. Yeah. And these sorts of books sell really well, especially with theater companies, with people that are looking to do monologues, or people that just like to sit there and read scripts, because scripts are a little easier to read, that's for sure. It's just dialogue.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there isn't any like Canadian like script writers that I can think of off the top of my head that have ever made a book like that. So.
Yeah, I can't think of any famous Canadian playwright, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I feel like I should be able to name one, but I can't. I can't either. Yeah.
So Welcome to Pringlewood is a collection of 6 different plays. Mm-hmm. Which one is your favorite and why?
Oh, that's tough. I would say like probably my most favorite is the one that I wrote recently, which is called Funny How Evil Is. It started out as a television spec script, and I planned on writing about 3 other episodes because it was going to be this one long story about this girl that makes a deal with Beelzebub, the devil, in order to obtain a watch that would allow her to live for another 400 years, and she has to do all these bad deeds, and the final bad deed results in her killing someone that she grows to really care about, and then it turns out she's part of this whole conspiracy with the devil trying to defeat God. It was like a big, high concept kind of mix of science fiction with some demonology in there, with some comedy, and I really enjoyed writing that. I had a lot of fun writing it because I was just having a great time with it. I wasn't really taking the material too seriously, whereas I think some of the other plays in here, when I was writing them, I was taking them very seriously, and I was very adamant of like, this is what I'm trying to say and this is my message. But I think that one's probably my favorite.
Sometimes like the best work doesn't even need to have like a message.
That's true, so, yeah. As long as like I still write for just the enjoyment of it. Like if I write to entertain myself, and mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in the idea that if you please yourself with your writing and you entertain yourself, then you're bound to entertain someone else. It really matters at the end of the day if you like it, because it will automatically resonate with someone else. And even if it doesn't, then that's okay too. Like as long as like you're expressing what you want to express. That's how I always felt towards it.
Okay, so question number 3, what's your biggest piece of advice to aspiring playwrights?
What I would say is to keep practicing and to get better at it, because from the time that my first play was published, I sent in about 2 other plays the following years, and each time those plays were rejected. They didn't want to produce them at the 4 Play Reading Festival that I mentioned earlier. And so it was 2 years later that I finally got another play in. And in retrospect, it's good that that happened, because those other plays that I'd written immediately after my first play were definitely not as good. I got better the more that I wrote. So that would be my recommendation, is for people to just keep practicing at it, because a lot of people think that writing plays is a little easier than writing prose, which to some degree it is. It's an easier format because you're just writing dialogue, but writing really good dialogue and finding your voice, and it can be really, really difficult. And not just your voice, but the voices of the characters that you're writing in. I had another friend, her name's Bronwyn, who's also a playwright. She said to me once when she was reading a script of mine that's not in here, she was like, all of your characters sound exactly like you. And that's the best critique I'd ever received. You'll kind of put your own personal feelings into the characters and your own personal rhetoric into the characters' voices without even realizing it. And so I didn't even realize I was doing that. And so ever since that critique, I've been more mindful about the sorts of voices that I use and the word choice that I use with characters and the dialect and all these sort of different things. So that would be my biggest advice, is to just keep going at it. Really write plays for the sake of writing plays, because the reality is, especially right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, there's not a big audience for plays, obviously. Like, theaters aren't up and running. So at this moment in time, I think that if people wanted to focus on kind of a dialogue, character-driven piece of writing, definitely focus on making short films, or focus on making some sort of mini series, if you could, on YouTube, because that's pretty close to actual stage plays, and that's something that you can do just with your iPhone. So that's what I recommend. Tell
us a bit more about the writing process that's involved in writing a script.
It's a lot, actually. It's more than people think. I always used to start out with a title. That's how I used to write. I would think of a title would cross my mind. Like, that's how I wrote Actually Not on My Campus. All of a sudden, this title entered my mind, and I couldn't figure out where I had heard the term from until I had actually thought back to a time that when I was on the university campus, we had these pro-life protesters coming, and people that were at the university that were pro-choice were coming along and counter-protesting, and they had signs blocking their signs that said "Not on my campus," and that really stuck with me, and it seeped into my subconscious. And then one day I was like looking to write another script, and the title just all of a sudden came to me. And then from there I would just start writing out little notes, like not even like in an organized fashion, just writing out these are the ideas that I have, maybe this could happen, maybe that could happen. And then from there I would take a look at it and then start to plan out the plot scene by scene. I would have the list of characters, I would have points of what happened in each scene, and I would try and bring it all together and then actually start the writing process. And the writing process itself actually took the longest, more than anything else. To write a page a day of a script is actually a little bit harder than writing a page a day of prose, because when you're writing a page a day of scripts, you also have to take into account like what characters are doing during the scenes, because obviously most of the time you don't just have 2 characters standing on stage and talking to each other. You have to be thinking about other things, like what will the set look like what is the intent of this scene, and you know, how can I make this dialogue more realistic? Like, there is a lot to think about when you're writing a script. Planning and then the editing didn't take as long. So that was usually my process once I began writing. And then from there I would give it off to someone else and have them tear it apart. Yeah.
That's good advice, especially about like what your characters are doing, because that's something that a lot of people don't think about.
You can do all sorts of different things in fiction. You can have multiple perspectives, you can go off on a tangent, but with scripts you can't do that. You have to be more straightforward with your intent of like what is happening in this scene. Is this scene useful? Does it advance the plot? You have to be more economical. You can't be too self-indulgent.
There's not really like much time to waste.
No, there's not. It's very direct. You have to be more specific about what it is you want to write about and what it is that you want to express.
So we kind of talked about this in the last question, but what do you like specifically about playwriting as opposed to other forms of writing, such as prose or poetry?
I would say for me, like outside of the what I was saying before about the fact that when you're writing plays and writing dialogue, you have to be more specific about your creative intent. I think I just also enjoy putting 2 characters in a room and having them speak to each other. I love writing dialogue. Like, I'm a big conversationalist, despite the fact that I'm quite introverted. I love talking one-on-one to people. I think it's really interesting what people will say to you and what things will come up when you're just one-on-one with someone versus like in a group of people where it's harder to focus in on one person. When I grew up, I watched a ton of like older films that really I shouldn't have been watching at such a young age, like films of Alfred Hitchcock and like Stanley Kubrick and all these directors. And you know, the thing about classic films compared to films of today, they would have longer scenes of dialogue, like very similar to like of the format of a play, whereas nowadays you don't really have that. You don't have long scenes of dialogue without any interruptions, without going to another location. And so I really like that about older films where they really take their time. Like there's a scene in one of my favorite movies, Psycho, where there's two characters sitting in this parlor and they talk for like a solid 25 minutes. And every time I watch it, like especially now that the fact that the film is now 60 years old, I think, man, you know, 60 years later, you would never see a scene like that in a movie. People just don't have the attention spans that they once did. And so I guess like I'm kind of a little bit old-fashioned in that sense where I like things to be kind of long and drawn out. I like movies and plays to kind of take their time. Within limits, obviously. Like, you can't go on and on and on and on. Yeah, I think that's probably why I enjoy playwriting the most, because I like scenes between two characters. It's definitely the top reason. Yeah,
it's definitely like a art form to keep an audience's attention with just like two people talking. So it's like a much harder type of writing than a lot of people think.
Definitely, yeah.
So tell us a bit about publishing A Welcome to Pringlewood, and what was the process like, and what tips would you give to someone looking to publish a book of scripts?
I'd say the whole process of self-publishing this collection of scripts probably took between a month and a half to 2 months, and the hardest part of it was definitely formatting and definitely waiting on someone to finish all of the edits that had to be made for the collection. Because as I said, the plays were written between 2014 to 2019, so they were already written. I just needed someone to proofread rather than to necessarily edit for content. And I actually had to go back and retroactively make changes to make all of the plays take place in Pringlewood, because originally some of the plays took place in New York, some of the plays took place in a town called Grimsdale, but I really liked Pringlewood, and Pringlewood I had set one of my plays in, and then once I was going to put this collection together, I decided to make all the plays take place in Pringlewood, to connect them all, to have them all take place in one wacky, weird universe where anything can happen. I think that was probably the hardest part, was going back through every bit of dialogue. It was over 300 pages of dialogue. A lot of these plays I'd written when I was in high school, and now I'm in my mid-20s, and so I think, oh my god, what is this line of dialogue? But I wouldn't really change too much, but I had to retroactively go back. The one thing I don't like about Amazon KDP is that you don't actually get any royalties until you make about $100 in royalties, which is really annoying.
Yeah,
and if you don't make, it can take a while. So if you don't make $100 in royalties, then you don't get any royalties at all. It's not like you actually you'll make a copy, you'll make money after each copy you sell. No, it takes time to actually get there. But other than that, I had a really good experience. They had everything. They had book templates, so it was really easy to format the pages, and they had a really neat way to design the cover, and so I was able to do everything myself, and I found someone on Fiverr to design the cover. So all in all, it probably cost me only about $25 to actually publish this.
That's amazing.
This entire book.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it was really good. So if you're looking to self-publish and you don't necessarily care about having it get out to a wider audience, then definitely go through Amazon KDP. I think that's probably the best way to go, rather than something like BookBay or what you did with Friesen Press. But yeah, that's the only thing that sucks about Amazon KDP, is that it's only available on Amazon. It's not going to be available in other bookstores. That's probably the only thing that is unfortunate. But a lot of people, tons of people buy books on Amazon, tons and tons.
It's good for beginners, like Amazon KDP.
Exactly.
If you're new to publishing a book.
Yeah. Totally.
Last question is, do you have any future publications in the works?
Honestly, I have a lot of ideas. I am currently finishing my English degree. I've applied for a couple of master's programs. I have a couple ideas for research books that I want to write that would incorporate studying fictional texts and then how they can be used to help people heal psychologically, looking at the intersection between psychology and movies and TV shows and books and songs and things like that. So I really want to publish academic research as a book. I have this one idea for a book called The Anxiety Playlist that would basically be a list of the top 10, top 5 books and then top 5 movies to help people with anxiety.
That's an amazing idea.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Please write that.
Yeah, because I love to write. I wouldn't want to write a dry academic book. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be an academic and you want to publish a popular book, you can't have it be dry. You have to have it appeal to people, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of my plans. But I definitely want to keep writing plays. I want to keep writing scripts and to keep making YouTube videos. That's
a good plan.
too. Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited to see the anxiety playlist. I feel like that would help a lot of people.
I think so too, and I can't really think of another book that's like that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, here's some fictional books about characters that are anxious, and here's some movies you can watch. Like,
Yeah,
you know, to
totally.
like build resiliency. Solid.
Solid plan.
Solid plan.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I have for you today. So thanks for coming back on my
Thank
channel
you. Anytime.
and talking about your book. And yeah, hopefully he said some tips and just helpful things for those of you who are interested in script writing. I think it's a really cool genre of writing that definitely does not get enough credit. So yeah, thank you for talking about it.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next Monday for a brand new video. Also, feel free to check out Quentin's channel and subscribe
Hello.
if you want more from him. So, bye guys.
Bye.